With Path of Exile 2 finally out in early access, there are genuinely a lot of new players who are not only new to the series, but are new to action RPGs in general. Path of Exile 2 is pretty hard, and even veterans of the first game are having a tough go of it. So if you're actually a new player, odds are you're having a pretty hard time. So in this video, I put together a bunch of beginner tips that are really easy to understand, simple, easy to wrap your head around, and that isn't going to confuse you. You can start implementing them right away, and it should help you in those initial hours of the game as you get your foot in the door and really come to terms with all of the kind of crazy things that this game has to offer, and even the genre in general. So sit back, relax. These are going to be some tips that are going to ease those initial hours of the game. That way you can focus on having fun instead of being frustrated. So if you like this video, be sure to leave a like and a sub, but let's get started. With Path of Exile 2 being pretty hard, one thing I would recommend for new players is to fully clear the maps. Now, this may be a little annoying. It's going to definitely take some time to clear these maps, but one thing you want to make sure is that you are at level or even above level for each recommended zone. If you're somebody that kind of just like beelines it straight to the objective, you're going to find yourself under-leveled, and just being even one level under a boss fight or a recommended zone is going to make it a lot harder for you to get through. So if you just take the time to clear the maps, or mostly clear the maps, you'll find that you're always going to be at the level you need to be or above the level that you need to be going into the next zone or the next boss fight, and it will make a difference. So just take the little bit extra time to explore the maps. You're going to get more loot in the process, and you're going to level up, and you're always going to stay ahead of the enemies, which really does help. While we're on the topic of exploring these maps, you are going to come across optional bosses. Some of them may be required to progress through the main quests or side quests, but as I said, a lot of them actually are optional, and you are going to want to take these guys out, even though they may be very challenging, because you can get permanent upgrades by defeating these bosses. We're talking elemental resistances, buffs, and then of course you're also going to get a ton of loot, skill gems, important, rare items that are going to give you a big power boost. You definitely want to take these guys out. Now, if you do happen to die, it's not really a big deal because there's almost always going to be a checkpoint nearby. So if you see a checkpoint, there is a good indicator that a boss is nearby, and you should try taking them out. If you do happen to get your ass kicked, grind through the map, come back later, and again, you'll be surprised at how much of a difference one additional level may be. So you definitely want to take these guys out, because the buffs that you get from taking out these bosses really cannot be understated. They can give you some huge advantages going in. Let's say you're playing a summoner. You can get defeat a boss that will give you increased spirit, which is used to summon minions. So there's just a lot of different ways and buffs that these bosses can give you. So you definitely want to take them out. And again, if you find yourself having a hard time, grind a little bit, level up, come back later, and you're going to absolutely destroy them, and it will be 100% worth it, and it'll be a big power spike to your character. So always look for these guys. You're going to have a big advantage. Although Path of Exile 2 might be more difficult than the first game, it's actually more new player friendly than ever before. Every single skill in the game has a tooltip, a video showcase, and even audio commentary that, explains what the skill does and different ways it can interact with enemies and other skills. And one of the cool things about Path of Exile 2 compared to its first one is that you can see everything that will be available on offer. So you can actually plan your build, you can plan ahead. If you want to do a sorcerer that's focusing on lightning spells or cold spells, or maybe you're playing a witch and you want to see what kind of minions are going to be available to you, you can see that and you can plan accordingly. And if you're a little bit confused about how something may work, terminology, descriptions, what an effect does, you can even go into each of the skills and you can see any of the terminology that is used, any of these special kind of important texts. You can even go into a further menu that will even further describe how that particular skill works or what that status effect does. It really does make a big difference. So if you're a little bit confused about how something works, maybe a status effect, or if you're just a little bit unsure about how this skill is interacting with enemies, take some time, go through the tooltips, and you will have a better idea of how any particular skill is working or what an effect is doing. It does make a big difference. And Path of Exile 1 didn't have this. You had to go to third-party websites just to get an idea about how something was working. And now we have video showcases, we have in-depth tooltips, we have video narrators. So it really does make a big difference. It's a big advantage for new players and, of course, veteran players as well. But it's a great addition to the game, and you should absolutely be using this whenever you can, whenever you're a little bit confused about a skill or an effect or anything. Just take the time, read the tooltips, watch the videos. It will make a big difference. Thankfully, the vendors in Path of Exile 2 heard that people were having a hard time, and they actually sell some pretty good loot. If you find yourself underpowered, maybe it's your gear. Maybe you haven't had a good drop in a while. Consider going to one of the vendors. There's always going to be several different vendors in each, town, each hub for each act, and they actually sell good stuff. You can wager gold to get randomized items, and you will be surprised at the stuff that you can get. They can give you a huge power spike, and gold is shared between all of your characters. So if you make a new character and you have a nice stash of gold, well, when you get to town for the first time, wager some of that gold and you can get a really great item right out of the get-go, and you can have a huge advantage going into a new character. And this goes for any character, even your main character. If you just find yourself, underpowered, stop by one of the shops, wager some gold, get some rare items. You'd be surprised at what you can get. And they are essentially always going to be, around the level or at the level that you need them to be. And Grinding Gear Games said they wanted to make sure that vendors were selling useful gear, and that is 100% the case. They do absolutely sell good loot now. And if you find yourself, just in a tough spot, swing by, buy some stuff, and you're going to have a nice advantage going into the next zone, especially if you found yourself not dealing enough damage or taking too much damage. Wager some gold or go into one of the other vendor shops that will have predetermined loot. Sometimes you can find something really, really good that fits perfect for your build. And yeah, I really appreciate that the vendors in this game actually sell good stuff, because most of the time in most action RPGs, they're kind of just there for you to sell things to and not really buy from. So it's nice to have stuff to buy that are actually useful. So definitely take advantage of that. While we're on the topic of gear, currency items drop a lot more frequently in Path of Exile 2, and there's far less different types of them, so it's a little bit easier to wrap your head around. In Path of Exile 1, there was no gold. The main economy of the game was dictated by all types of different currency, different items that could do different things to your gear. Upgrade a normal item to a magic item to a rare item. Add different effects and attributes, and re-roll different, characteristics of your gear, and all types of different stuff like that. And all that is still in the game in Path of Exile 2, but it's easier to understand. You can take any piece of gear. Let's say you find a weapon that maybe has really good stats, but it's not a magic item or it's not a rare, and you want to bring it to the next level. Well, you can bring that piece of gear to your stash, or if you have the items in your inventory, you can upgrade that item and really bring it to the next level. Now, you shouldn't do this for every single piece of item, because you want to make sure that you have them for the end game and late game activities, but they do drop, often enough that, again, if you find yourself a little bit underpowered and you need a nice boost to your power, well, consider upgrading one of your items with any of the currency items, the pieces of, different orbs, orb of transmutation or augmentation, or there's there's so many different names, and over time you will get to understand what each of these pieces of items do. And as we're, leveling up, you're gonna get a nice little stash of this, and I always like to keep them in my stash, which is great for new characters because they are shared between all of your characters, but it's really nice to keep things organized. A nice stash will make your life just a lot easier, and it'll be a lot easier for you to see, what's worth upgrading, and it will make a big difference. Don't be afraid to upgrade your gear every now and again. It will help. And the last tip I want to share is plan out your build. A lot of people have seen, the skill tree in Path of Exile 2. It's absolutely massive, and it can be very intimidating. But it's actually not that complicated. You can specifically search for any term that you want. If you're doing a fire build, you want to focus on fire damage, well, simply just type fire into the bar there, and any nodes in this massive skill tree that have the word fire in it or that's associated with fire will be highlighted. You can plan your path out this way. The quickest way to get to whatever node you want to get to, it's going to make your life a lot easier. And one of the cool things about Path of Exile 2 is that you can easily respec your choices with gold, but it's better not to. You should have a good idea of where you want to go and how you want to get there. And another thing I want to add as just a little bonus is don't neglect your defenses. It can be very tempting to go full offense and just go all damage, but you're going to have a really, really rough time. You will get one shot by bosses and elites 100%. So don't neglect your elemental resistances, your armor, your life, mana regen, life regen. There's a lot of different types of ways you can increase your defense other than, just having more health and more armor, evasion, energy shield, recouping life, life leech, mana leech, energy shield leech. There's just a lot of different ways that you can increase your defense, so definitely don't neglect that. But generally, you should have a rough idea of what type of build you want to do. Again, you can look at all the skills that are available to you at any given time. So think about what you want to do and plan your path accordingly. It will make a big difference. And that's it, guys. I hope this video was helpful for you. I did try to keep it as simple as I could. Very easy to wrap your head around. Actually, beginner tips for people who are new to this genre. And I do hope this video helped. If it did, be sure to leave a like and a sub. Till the next one, guys. Peace out. Let me know how you've been doing in the game, how many times you've died, what boss has been giving you issues, and what type of build you're doing. Would love to hear from you guys. Till the next one, take care.